Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on emotional intelligence in the workplace. I hope you find it interesting. I certainly for one have found it very interesting pulling the content together. So please feel free to be as interactive as you possibly can be and ask any questions throughout in the chat box. So just a little bit about us initially. Clover HR is your team of bespoke HR consultancy service. So we have over 25 HR business partners around the Midlands and in the UK. And we span all areas of HR and the end-to-end employee life cycle. So if there is anything you want after today and you want to speak to any of us, please feel free to contact us. Something good that happened with the business, certainly, we having realised the growth of our business, the plan was to get recognised with an ISO 9001. So successfully this year, we managed to do it as a team, and we're happy to say we're accredited with that certificate. Today, it's myself taking the session. So I've worked in HR over 22 years now, and I'm very passionate about the subject. I want to try and help you get the best from the topic, so feel free to contact me after today if there's something you don't want to put in here. Alternatively, ask any questions and queries throughout, and my colleague and I, Sarah, will try and help you as best we can. We have got a Q&A part to it. We want to ask you questions throughout. We're going to ask you to put them in the chat option so Sarah can follow it through and record them. But I would ask you at this stage probably to mute your lines just so we can get through the content of the presentation and then come back to you at the end if there is anything. And certainly feel free to chat within amongst yourselves on the chat option as well and give me any hints and tips that you have about this topic. So before I go through the contents today, we want to run a poll with you. And that poll is, does emotional intelligence make you a better manager? Yes, no, or sometimes. I am going to launch the poll now, so you can have that as to fill in throughout. And certainly we'll come to the results at the end, which will be really interesting to see once you've heard the topic and all of its contents. So we will have a look at the end, but today we'll be covering what is emotional intelligence and the four elements of emotional intelligence that lie there. We'll look at emotional intelligence in the workplace and what that looks like, how to improve your emotional intelligence, 10 ways to work smarter using EI, so I'll give you some hints and tips, emotional intelligence as a co-worker and how that looks and works, and probably most importantly to you, emotional intelligence as a boss and how to be a great boss using EI. So we are emotional creatures and can be overwhelmed by our feelings sometimes. This is not always a bad thing, since our emotions give us feedback of what is going on and how we are feeling and propels us into action a lot of the time. But the problem is, if we get a flood of feeling, that can prevent us from any kind of thinking intelligence. And this can be obviously an impediment in many aspects of our life. Commonly observed is the road rage incident, for example. So in the workplace, where good communication and relationships with colleagues are essential for success, it's really important to be able to self-regulate and to be aware of what you are feeling, but also being able to understand your impact on others. So we need to ask yourself, do you feel emotional intelligence has helped you at some point in your life, at work or personally, and why? I'd love you to answer this question. Have a think about it throughout the webinar and put it in the chat so Sarah can calculate the results. Do you feel emotional intelligence has helped you at some point in your life, at work or personally, and why? So when we move on to what is emotional intelligence, the term emotional intelligence is not new, since Daniel Goleman put it in an agenda of importance for workplace competencies in the 1990s. So we define it as the capacity to be aware of, control and express one's emotions, and to handle interpersonal relationships judiciously and empathetically. So emotional intelligence is the key to both personal and professional success. It is now widely recognised that the most successful leaders and managers possess these qualities of EI as well as their technical abilities. So unlike IQ, which does not change significantly over a lifetime, the good news is that EQ can evolve with our desire to learn and grow. So when we look at the four elements of EI, you look at self-awareness. So this is the ability to recognise your emotions and their impact while using the gut feeling to guide your decisions. So this is formally known as intuition, when you get that feeling that something's going to happen, you're feeling that symptom. Self-management, so the ability to control your emotions and behaviour and adapt to changing circumstances. This is something that does have to be practiced. Social awareness, so the ability to sense, understand and react to the emotions of others and to feel comfortable socially. So you can tell if someone's smiling but really is actually upset. This is about trying to spot what's going on behind the scenes, behind the eyes. And people might pretend to be something they're not within a social setting. And then we look at relationship management. So the ability to inspire, influence and connect to others and to manage conflict. So certainly, can you remain calm, energised and focused in the face of another's distress or during an upsetting situation? You know, those people that keep calm in a crisis. And afterwards probably it affects them, but at the time they manage that relationship, they manage that emotion and they get on with what needs doing. So looking at the examples of emotional intelligence in the workplace, what does this look like? So an upset employee finds a compassionate ear. So it's good sometimes to talk through a problem at work and offer to listen to someone when they need it. This shows a great level of respect for each other and what each of the member of the team brings to the party and has to say and how they're feeling. So it is important that each member feels comfortable to say what they think and to be themselves as well and be themselves openly. When changes occur, reassure your members positively and keep focusing on the end result and what you're doing it for. Try and be flexible in your approach at work. So we're all dealing with emotions and it's okay with change. So we have to be flexible in our approach. And if something does happen, to just go along with it and see what happens. Creativity can be very positive in the workplace and allow ideas to flow. And people can meet outside of work. Knowing your team inside and outside of work can help build strong relationships and get to know each other better. So when we look at emotional intelligence, there's some core competencies that we can be aware of that can be productive but also unproductive. So if you were to look at self-awareness as a core competency, if you are self-aware and you're present in the room, you're with the people, you're listening to them, that is a productive state. However, the disconnectedness, the unproductive state, is when you're not really listening, and people can see this. Awareness of others. So show empathy. If you're insensitive to their needs and needs of others, it's going to display an unproductive state and it won't be very highly thought of. The authenticity of a person, obviously you can see if someone's genuine or whether they're acting and untrustworthy, and this does help or hinder relationships. Emotional reasoning can be expansive and limited. And then self-management, so build your resilience. Your self-managed way of your emotions can build resilience. The unproductive state is you're temperamental, volatile, you're not sure what's going to happen, and this can have a massive impact at work, as you can imagine. Positive influence, so try and empower your team, try and empower your colleagues. This can only help. And if you're slightly indifferent, this does have an unproductive state on things at work. So we want to ask the audience here, we want to ask you guys really to have a think throughout this session. Have you ever tried to improve your emotional intelligence? And if so, how? This is something obviously you'll learn more throughout this webinar, but I just want to ask you at this stage to put in the chat for Sarah whether you have tried to improve your emotional intelligence along the way and how it's been. So moving on to how to improve. The good news that is emotional intelligence can be learned and developed. So as well as working on your own skills, use these strategies really to help you. Observe how you react to people. So do you rush to judgment before you know all the facts? Do you stereotype people on first impressions? Do you put yourself in their place and be more open and accepting of their perspectives and their needs? Look at your work environment. Do you seek attention for your accomplishments? Humility can be a wonderful quality, and it doesn't mean that you're shy or lacking self-confidence. So give others a chance to shine, put the focus on them, and do not worry too much about getting praise for it yourself. Do a self-evaluation. So what are your strengths and weaknesses? Are you willing to accept that you're not perfect and you could work on some areas to make yourself a better person? This does build respect amongst you, your colleagues, your manager, your subordinates. So have the courage to look at yourself honestly, and it can change your life. And examine how you react in stressful situations. Do you become upset every time there's a delay or something doesn't happen the way you want it to be? Do you blame others or become angry even when it is your fault? We also need to take responsibility for our actions. If you hurt someone's feelings, apologise directly. Don't ignore what you did or avoid that person. People are usually more willing to forgive and forget if you make an honest attempt to make things right. And examine how your actions will affect others. This is so important before you take those actions. If your decision will impact others, put yourself in their place. How will you feel if you do? How would you feel if you do this? What would you want that experience to be? If you must take the action, how can you help others deal with the effects of this? So emotional intelligence is key to relating to others, well to others, and achieving your goals. So many people feel that it is at least as important as regular intelligence, as many companies now use emotional intelligence testing to hire new staff. So emotional intelligence is an awareness of your actions and feelings and how it affects those around you. It also means that you value others, listen to their wants and needs, and are able to empathise or identify with them on many different levels. So when we look at 10 ways to work smarter with EI, here's just some ideas really to help you along your way. Use your body to sharpen your mind. So spend 20 minutes a day exercising. It can add energy, sensitivity, flexibility, and creativity. This doesn't necessarily mean going for a run or going to the gym. It could be just going for a little walk, doing some stretching, some yoga, anything like that. Invite your feelings in, not just thoughts. So make it safe for people to tell you how they feel, and they will work harder and better potentially. People tell the truth to those that withhold judgments. Establish some emotional boundaries. There has to be boundaries at work, and too much emotion between co-workers can flood the workplace and lose the focus. So make sure you keep the boundaries in place that you want to keep in. But make no decision based on data alone. Use your intuition, your gut instinct, and ask yourself how you feel about the position you are taking and ensuring you're acting with integrity. Be flexible in your approach, so be prepared to modify your goals and react to others. And be generous. When a point of conflict means more to the other person than you, try and surrender graciously. It will be remembered. Begin any negative comments with a positive one. So you're more likely to get an empathetic ear if you show a level of emotion first and a positive comment coming out of it. Speak out when you feel something is important. If something is bothering you at the gut level, you must speak out, as withholding it cause emotions to flood and bottle up. When you take action, you change how you feel about the problem. So hopefully it will be a lesser problem. And listen with empathy. So using your emotions will never distract you from the task in hand. Empathy gives you the understanding of what someone is saying, and this can only help. And then take the risk of appearing imperfect. High performers ask for help all the time when they need it, and admit to being wrong also when they make a mistake. Then they move on. They're effective and efficient, and people, again, co-workers would respect this. When using EI then to be a great co-worker, how can we do this? We don't make assumptions about those you work with. It's too easy to show your prejudices and biases in the workplace. So let your emotions show you what is unique about everyone, and do not stereotype anyone. So don't expect anyone to communicate with you 100% honesty. So trust your intuition with people. Again, do not expect everyone will always be as honest as you. And some people find it hard to show how they feel honestly. So be respectful of this. Be prepared to draw the line. So if you and your co-workers share the goals and values of the business, there is a good chance a friendship could be found. If you become uncomfortable with a situation, just back off and trust your hunch, and it may not be right to push it any further. Offer help. Don't wait for people to ask. So this generosity you display will contribute to the camaraderie of the workplace and the morale, and sensitivity to the needs of others will gain you their future respect, support and loyalty. And don't take it personally. Remember that everyone has an agenda, a personal life and a unique style of interaction, and we have to respect that. So if you looked at real life examples as a co-worker, with point one, I have been involved in a lot of ER issues within workplaces where co-workers have assumed they don't like each other because they didn't speak to each other. So they had difficulties which led on to their difficult working relationship together and productivity. One example I had was that it actually turned out they had a lot in common with both parties, but they were both shy and didn't have the confidence to get to know each other. So because they ignored each other, they carried on ignoring each other. And actually, they ended up in a great friendship in the end, but they just assumed they didn't like each other. And again, didn't have that honest, open conversation. When we look at using emotional intelligence to be a great boss, here are some kind of hints and tips of how you can do this. And again, some of them or all of them would be effective. So anticipate your people problems. Use your empathy to know your employees and how they interrelate. So by doing this, you'll understand what motivates your individuals in the workplace and what relationships you've formed already. You're not always going to have the same relationship with each person, but the more you know about how your employees feel, the less often your own actions will inadvertently create havoc or resentments, so you know how to guide and talk to people. Be the first to speak. So even if you've created a safe and open environment, some people will still find it difficult to speak up or raise a problem. So it's useful sometimes to spot potential problems or changes and invite comments back. So if you sense discontentment in the workplace from any changes or from one or more of the employees, approach a subject, try to broach it in a way that relieves the insecurities of those people. Then respect their privacy if they still decline to talk about it, and obviously they just want to keep it to themselves. Make it known that you're always there, ready for employees to improve themselves. So let your employees know they're open to reaching their own potential, and you will push them and guide them as far as they can possibly go, and probably aim higher that way they will. Offer only as much as you intend to give. So don't invite comment if you don't intend to listen wholeheartedly. And people recognise lip service, so make sure we deliver on our words. The biggest way a leader can lose respect is to say they're going to do something and not do it. Model flexibility and adaptability. So if you want employees to be creative and use their initiative, show them that proactive problem solving is important. Sometimes not sticking to the plan and rules is the best way to try and other things, try different ways of working. Cultivate your employees, but don't smother them. So you can show empathy as a manager and listen to them while not babying them too much and micromanaging. With high EQ, we'll be able to cut off from a heart-to-heart talk before it becomes unproductive and be able to praise for a job well done without fear of it becoming too much of a relaxed working effort. Don't be afraid to ask the question if someone is okay. So many fantastic leaders I have worked with are amazing at their job, amazing technically, but they're too afraid to ask their employees how they feel, and they feel it's too private. This can only help not talking, that they feel they can only talk work-related issues. Whereas if you ask an employee how they are outside of work, at home, this can really help build this relationship you have. The latest article from People Management actually states that employees' perceived mood and productivity lately is much lower than we thought. So I think this is crucial, really, as a little tip. We need to equip our line managers with the tools and soft skills so they can proactively help their employees. So now we're going to go to the audience questions in the chat and just see what's come about. So I'm going to pass to Sarah, if you can all hear her, and she's going to talk us through those questions.
Hello everyone, I'm afraid you probably can't see me, I'm having problems with video, but I'll be just the voice in the background. We've had some answers to our questions. So the first question we had was, do you feel emotional intelligence has helped you at some point in your life, and why? So one of our responses has been recognising narcissistic traits in others. So that's helped this person to avoid burnout when someone's behaving in a highly entitled way by being demanding and unreasonable. So there's a real life example. Another one being having children, being able to talk through tantrums and problems by being aware of feelings and trying to be calm under emotional circumstances. Then our second question, we asked, have you tried to improve your emotional intelligence? So one of our responses was yes, by learning from experience, thinking about, did I deal with that person in the best way, and if not, change it for next time. Another response, thinking about what other people's values and drivers are in order to improve your thinking around emotional intelligence. So we have had some responses there. I'm sure everyone's kind of had a little think about that themselves as well, and may have some examples that they have thought through. So it's really been useful to get your feedback on those and look at how people have been using this kind of topic in their day-to-day lives and in their work lives.
Fantastic, thanks Sarah. So I'm going to go to the poll now and see what results we've got from that. When I asked the question, does emotional intelligence awareness make you a better manager? We've got 75% have said yes. We've got 0% that says no, but then 25% sometimes. So there is a strong emphasis there on emotional intelligence can make you a better line manager and get you more involved with the person, involved with the working relationship that you have. So that's always good to see. Thank you for taking part in that. So in summary, if we look at the benefits of emotional intelligence, which gives you in any aspect of life, let's label them all out here. It gives you the ability to manage our own emotions, good and bad, which can only be a good thing. It gives you the ability to manage yours and others' stress levels and not be overwhelmed. It gives you the ability to be more assertive and express difficult emotions in the right way. This can help strengthen a relationship, keep a relationship, and build relationships throughout. The ability to stay proactive and not reactive, spotting any problems before they happen. Ability to bounce back and bounce back strong. If you're in control of your emotions, you can bounce back, and obviously productivity will be unaffected, hopefully. And see what the organisation's personality and culture is. This can really help frame an organisation and how you manage and how you teach your managers to manage their people, make it consistent. HR professionals tend to be extremely good at EI and can always offer help, support and training to an organisation and its leaders with all its people. Now, obviously, if you need any help from today's webinar, you're welcome to contact us. But I would thank you very much for joining in, for listening. Thank you to Sarah for gathering the feedback and the question and answers. And I'd really like just to open the floor up now to see if there is any questions you want to ask in the chat while we're live. And you're welcome to do that. So I'll just leave it for 20 seconds to see if anyone comes up, and then I'll say goodbye. So I'll leave it at that, but thank you so much everyone for listening. It's a really interesting topic to do it on, and I'd love to talk to you about it more. So feel free to get in touch with Clover HR. Thank you all. Bye-bye.